your product. So that's the experience you've created. And as you would have noticed, a lot of companies. So I just took an example of Apple iPhone. Yes, for Indian context, maybe not so much, but from the country where it started, experience is a great feature. So if the look and feel of the product is so high, there are people ready to buy it. That's what precisely is, the advantage with Apple iPhone or the Tesla car, which I just talked about, right? And then comes your customer side of it, okay? And then you start looking at, or identifying the wants and the needs. So what are the emotional drivers of purchasing? That's a want, you know so it's absolutely, whether I need it or not need it is the secondary thing. The first aspect is the want of it. So that's what a lot of times the toy companies do. So most of the times, if you remember as a kid, or maybe your kids, they don't want, I mean, they don't need a particular toy. They want a particular toy. What they basically need maybe could be a good book or a good, encyclopedia, but what they want is, a dummy stuffed toy. So, for example, just giving an example. Whereas there are always these hidden needs, right? So, which basically, put forward a rationale for purchasing. So, which helps you actually put a, decision on how your purchasing should be, right? That's where need comes in picture. So, healthcare. Nobody, wants healthcare. They need healthcare. And that's why, healthcare now is actually an essential service. And if you would have realized during COVID times, there was a very clear, demarcation between the wants and the needs. That's what COVID-19 actually taught us, I think. Very clearly, we started to identify, hey, do I need this or do I want this, So most of our, wardrobes are now, so I'm wearing, a shirt right now, which I think I bought some 5 years back. So haven't purchased a great, clothing stuff in last 2 years at least. Started to realize I really don't need it. So again, want could be different. And that's why if you realize very clearly, COVID-19, we saw a lot of businesses close down, a lot of sectors getting disrupted because there people started to realize a clear differential between the want and the need, right? And then, very importantly also from the customer side of it, also always remember the fear of it. Why do people, why are people risk averse? Why do you think customers are risk averse at all? It's because of the fear of switching, you know so how do you, or how does your product, you know let them overcome that fear? What's the confidence you're giving in them? And that's why, all these e-commerce platforms where they say that, return without question and refund within 3 days or 7 days, that's what it helps to overcome. So all these little boosters, you take or you use actually helps you overcome your customers' fears. And that's why we use boosters. We call them boosters. Okay, and then yes, you have to also understand when you're establishing the value proposition canvas. You have to also establish what are the substitutes. So, as you know, the competitors could be direct competitors or indirect competitors. So, for example, a Coke versus Pepsi is a direct competition, whereas a Coke versus tea, in Indian context is an indirect competition. But they both, look at the same market share. That's why they are competition. Okay. So what do you have to always look out for? So, market research is actually incomplete if you're not looking at the competition or you're not looking at, substitutes, as you can see here. So what do people currently do instead is what you have to very clearly start identifying. So anybody, any entrepreneur, who actually says or stands up and say, hey, I don't have a competition, I'm first in the market, look carefully. Your customers must be doing definitely something right now to solve the same problem, right? So that's what you start looking out for. Okay, so a summation of what we just talked. Customers pay for the value they receive by purchasing or using your products or services, which is brought out by its features and communicated as benefits, right? So that's a broad line. And, between you and your team, please see that you all remember it all the time, right? So they pay for that value, they get in exchange for the money they spend, as simple. And value is communicated as benefits, and it is always brought out by the features. So you have to understand the value your customers place on your product or service, as well as same the time also identify, when you start talking about the value, it is what the customers get or the benefits customers receive in exchange for the money they spend. As simple as that. So, how do we tell you to establish it? Normally we say, at least in the US context, we used to say cheaper, better, faster. But then, we redesigned it for Indian context, which is, because cheaper could mean there could be quality issues, right? So we started to talk about affordability, okay? So you have to, whenever you're trying to establish a communication for your products, how to communicate the benefits and features of your product, see how your products or services are more affordable, better than the existing options, and convenient. So, maybe not faster, but convenient for your customers, right? I want to give you another example here. Our favorite Domino's pizza. So, just by, letting customers accept, or maybe, letting the customers adopt, I would say, the 30 minutes delivery of free. What did Domino's do? I mean, if you think of a perception, building a perception. One, they started to tell you that, hey, if we don't deliver in time, your order is free. But towards the back end, their entire value chain actually then got, positioned to ensure that they are able to deliver your pizzas within 30 minutes, which means the location of the stores to the, production time to the delivery time. Everything was streamlined. And second, what they've done today, the moment you think of pizza, the first thing you think is about Domino's. That's the convenience, that's the convenience most of the e-commerce platforms bring for the customers. So if you're not, if you think convenience is the last thing because, your product or service is so superior, you may really like to look around it again. So, convenience does matter because, now your customers are used to convenience as well. So, except for, if you're selling something where they will definitely come to you and it's such a pain, that you're solving, right? That even if you sit at, the foothills of Himalayas, they'll still come to you, right? Things are different. But otherwise, if you are in a, even if it is an innovative product or service, you will have to definitely look at the affordability, better than existing options and convenience of your customers all the time. So that's what you start establishing. I also, I understand it's a webinar, but then I wanted to leave this thought with you of the design thinking techniques that we, prefer that our entrepreneurs use. And this is something, you can use even if you are still in your first product stage, designing your first product, or even if you are already a business and you want to keep adding to your product line. So every time, you design, you always think of the human need, behind that product. So to give you just this example, I want to, again, talk about, not that I don't like Elon Musk, I like him a lot, like I'm sure most of you do. He's a handsome guy. But then, also to understand that, if there is no water on Mars, and say Amazon guy and then Elon Musk and all of these guys, they want to go to Mars and resettle there, that's actually not immediate problem. That's not a real world problem as of now for us. I think in our context, real world problems could differ. Okay. So depending on your customer persona, which I'm sure you must have learned how to establish by now, what you do is you start with a simple process of understanding your customer. So you empathize, you think from their perspective, you know, you understand their persona, and then you define, you know, start defining their needs, start defining their problems, right? And then you ideate in your teams, okay? You think of the features and the benefits those features will bring, you know, to the solution you're going to offer to them. And then you develop a prototype, you test the prototype, and then you implement the prototype, right? So you understand, you explore, and you materialize. These are three quick steps. But at the same time, if you see carefully, every time you iterate, in the sense you take a feedback. So, after you have, empathized and defined a problem, after defining also, you go back and empathize. So, you take a feedback. Is it going to work or not work? Once you've ideated, again, you go back and define. So, every step, there is an iteration which happens. So there's practically a feedback mechanism which you deploy all the time, and, feedbacks are important. Remember, so every time we're in kitchen, standing in the kitchen and, talking to our kids, serving them new dishes and then asking them, "Theek bana hai ki nahi?" That's how it is. So, that "theek bana hai ki nahi" is actually a faith we, reimpose in ourselves. Okay, we are on the right track, because otherwise you can still improve, before you've served the last meal. So it's precisely like that, you empathize, you understand their requirements, you define it with your team, you ideate upon it. So, try to work out the best solution, create a prototype, test it and implement it. As simple as that. Then there are deeper ways of looking at it, and this slide we can absolutely, send your way in case you would be interested. So, starting to, conduct some observations, trying to conduct some amazing interviews, do some surveys. So, you can either engage with your customers directly or indirectly. So when you empathize, you basically observe their, purchasing patterns, you observe their requirements, you talk to them, right? That's what you do while you're empathizing, right? And then when you define a very clear problem statement that frames the user and their need. And then when you ideate, you actually look at, what are all the range of things you can do to satisfy the identified user needs. And then you create a prototype, which is mostly, a working prototype. You try and create a working prototype at least. Okay. And then you test it. So leaving, this little table here of the design thinking process. And as I said, it's quite useful for a very simple fact that, you can absolutely, look at design thinking principles from the perspective of, either you're creating a product for the first time or you're doing it multiple times. So that's where, design thinking actually comes handy. So that was it from my side. Any questions? Happy to take them.
If I may, can you hear me? Hello, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I'm into education. I'm a teacher with many years of experience, and I have started a portal for children. Now we already have Byju's and whatnot, right? However, I still went ahead and I did this, and I've created something which is only for practice for children. They practice their work, they daily work on this. Now, I thought there was a need for it. I sometimes got a bit lost on whether I really did need it or not. So how do I put it? How can I understand whether I'm in the right,
Meena, is it convenient for you to type it in the chat box? Or
Okay, sure,
maybe,
sure.
so if you can turn off the video because I think, so I can't hear you. I'm sorry. So if you can put it in the chat box, happy to answer.
Sure, sure, sure. I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yeah, Nitisha.
Hi, Dr. Divya, can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible. Please go on.
Yeah. I'm sorry, there's some bandwidth issues. That's why I'm not switching on the video.
No worries.
But my question was, in terms of a social enterprise, I'm working for the crafts industry. I'm ideating at this stage, and I wanted to understand, like, till what extent it is valid to not only validate with the customers, but also understand the suppliers' point of view. Um, like in my case, it would be artisans or craftsmen. Like,
Sure. Sure. So I get what you're saying. In fact, we also run a online marketplace where we source from artisans and women entrepreneurs and then, sell as corporate gifting. So that's one of
Mhm.
our, market access platform for our women entrepreneurs that we do. So completely, with you on the supplier base, we cannot do without our vendors, right? But then at the same time, whenever you create a solution, and that's the iteration process. You remember I talked about the iteration, the feedback mechanism. So
Yeah.
if you start thinking from the customer's point of view, so see again, two things will happen. One is, either you can procure or get some products designed and try to push them in market. Okay, that's the normal procedure we follow. Whereas if you take a feedback from the customers, so prospective customers, say you're looking at a lifestyle segment. Let me just give an example. If you're looking at lifestyle segment, right, and you're
Mhm.
working, although you're working with the artisans, but still you understand the patterns, you understand the designs, you understand, and also the geography where you're going to sell, you know. For example, if you're selling in West India versus the North India, for example, right? North behaves differently and behaves differently. The color combinations, So then you take this understanding back to your artisans and you engage with them in developing products which your market is better to respond to. So why it's important to set up a vendor base, which is very important, as I said, having loyal vendors is actually key to your success. But then at the same time, if you take the understanding of the market that yes, my market is going to buy this, my market is going to respond. Also, very importantly, you can also test your prototypes first with the market. So create those little samplers which you first seek a feedback and ask people if they're ready to buy for it. Your life will be so
Okay.
much sorted. Yeah, you go back to your artisans. So, rather than bringing their products and then selling those products in the open market, you've actually done the other way around.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Sure.
why do you think there's no other Fab India ever? It's because Fab India has a very, very, specific. So they only pick up what can be sold. Fab India doesn't. I mean, yes, they pick up from the artisans. They pick up from the best of the, skilled artisans, but they only pick up what can be sold. And that's why, if you go to Fab India, every product you pick up feels like you can just pick it up and buy. So, and also, just to cite another example, also look at very specifically what segment, again, I'm repeating, what segment of customer are you going to sell to? If you're looking at, say, exports, then,
Mhm.
you know, why do you think China sells Ganesh ji and Lakshmi ji on our Diwali? They are not selling their dragon or our Diwali. They're selling to the market where they want to operate. They're looking at the market, Indian market and the Indian need, to create those Ganesh and Lakshmi ji. Well, they could have also pitched ना कि नहीं हमारे तो ड्रैगन बहुत स्मार्ट है आप हमारे ड्रैगन को बिठा लो इस बार. They don't do that. Let's understand. So sometimes I understand if we have some amazing products because India, yes, are trust me, there are export houses which sell, products like anything. Indian handicraft, they've sold like anything. They've exported handicraft like anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then, very specifically look where you're selling, look what they require, what they need again, So is there an established need of those products? That's going to be important. And that's what you take back to your vendors.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think ma'am, Meena has posted a question.
Yeah, I could see that. So Meena, you're a teacher who has started an education portal. Wonderful. My portal allows children to only practice and revise their work. Nice. I will tell my daughter to get hands on it. I was telling her exactly precisely the same today morning when I was driving her to school. I said, you need to practice and practice. Okay, and then comes, I often wonder whether I'm right in identifying the pain point. Practicing and revising work. Oh, absolutely. Only thing is you have to see how you can make it so interesting for them that they want to come back and do it.
Yeah, so what I have done is I've made it into a game, which is called Mission Play to Learn. However, I'm still not getting enough leverage. I mean, traction, I think is the word,
Okay,
right?
so do you have enough kids playing this game?
Sorry?
Have enough kids given you feedback about the game?
No.
Do that.
So I need to get more feedback on social platforms.
You need to get more feedback from the users.
Okay. Fine.
Not just the customers. Parents will love it. They'll pay you for this. But users, if they don't use it, wo dump ho jayega. So you have to get a user feedback on this. So see, there are different set of users and customers. I think that everybody knows this, So users are kids here in your case. So they have to give you a feedback. They have to like the color, the look and feel, the experience, and they should like to work on this again and again. So that's how it has to be. So they have to use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I understand this.
Right. You have to unmute. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Indu, you are not audible. You are you have unmuted yourself, but we can't hear you.
इंदु ये माइक्रोफोन उतार के फेंक दो. It's useless at times. Anuradha, you have a question in the meantime. So girls, am I holding you from your evening tea? So you can get your evening tea and we can continue to chat. Okay.
Indu, if there's some technical issue, you can post your question in the chat as Meena did.
So thank you, Meena. I will have my child look at your portal.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else in the meantime has any questions? Happy to take.
Natasha, you have a question again, is it? I think she has raised her hand.
Okay. Acha, so you want to know the name of our app or website? Yes, it is www.kakul.market. I will just type it. And trust me, it's not perfect, right? Just like any other startup, but then, the one thing we do is we're trying to build the entire platform based on the feedback customers give us. Right. Any other questions? As we're sorted for the evening.
I think no more questions as of now, ma'am. If we have any questions, we'll definitely redirect it to you separately over your mail.
Sure.
I think Nitisha has expressed interest. She would love to connect with you offline so that she can share her.
I'm there. I'm right. So I'm there on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, right? And happy to connect. I mean, I'm pretty okay on LinkedIn, so you can connect me there. Regarding our website, if you have any queries, you can connect with the team. There's a full-time team, 3 women who look after it. So I'm just putting the email address in case you want to write to them, to know more or anything, their experience. So in fact, they've recently been selected as part of a UN Women Accelerator program also. So as an industry disruptor. So please do reach out to them in case, anything they can do for you, you can just write to them.
Sure. Thank you, Divya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ruchi, closing remarks.
Oh, it should be given by. I'm just trying to address that. So.
Shivaji? Okay.
It was really glad to have you, ma'am. I mean, I could definitely relate with some of the very basic examples which you gave when it came to the COVID-19 hustle, wherein we could actually identify the difference between a want and a need. And obviously, the relatively relatable example like Domino Pizza, how they created their brand and how basis the feedback they have, they are now the #1 position brand across globe. So thank you so much for that, and I'm definitely looking forward to more interactions with you. I will be more than happy to connect you with relevant startups whom you can mentor with your expertise. And I request Dr. Shivaji if he has something to add on to what I said.
No, I guess I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Divya for being here with us and spending her wisdom with our participants today. And I think we look forward to many more such interactions with a champion who has been championing the cause of women entrepreneurship across the country. Thank you once again for being here with us.
Right. Thank you, Shivaji. Thank you, Ruchi. And thank you, girls. Wish you all the best. Just one request, don't stop. So whatever may come your way, So look at one thing you do every day, one new thing. And trust me, tomorrow you'll have 2 new things to do. So just don't stop. Just don't let things stop for you. Any situation, you can surpass it very easily. Just keep growing, and you'll have, as I said, more work coming your way next day.
Definitely. Thank you,
Right.
ma'am, for encouraging.
Thank you.
Wishing you a very festive season ahead to all of you.
Oh yes, happy Diwali, everybody.
Stay
Yes.
safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was very enlightening. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thanks, Meena, for joining. Thank you, everyone.